Hey everybody, how's it going? So today's drawing is not a challenge. It's I'm working on a commission. So a portrait in in memory of Tiger, the cat. And so I thought maybe you could hang out with me while I do that. And I've already done the initial sketch, and then I inked it with my Molotow black liners, my trusty inking pens. And now I'll be using both Faber-Castell and Prismacolor pencils. Yeah, get to work on that. I'm a little bit behind my schedule on this, but I was a little under the weather over the weekend, so fell behind on some stuff. But I'm working on it now, and that's what counts. So what I like to do when I'm working on portraits like this, I usually start with white and get that all blocked in, and then just work my way into the darker colors. I was taught in figure drawing classes and painting classes not to start with the darkest darks or the lightest lights, but stuff like this I usually, like I said, I start with white. So I'm breaking the rules. I don't, it's just the way I do things. I don't really have a reason to give you for why. It's just what works for me. And I like to fill in as many spaces that have the same color at once as I can, instead of jumping around. So here I am with that. And this one is an 8x10, and I'm using a 9x12 sheet of paper from a tan-toned sketchbook by Strathmore. Excuse me. And I will just, you already see where I have the margins marked. Excuse me. Get some water here, hang on. Alright, so you can see where I've already got the margins, and I will cut those. That would be the last thing I do, is cutting off the excess paper. The reason I do that is every once in a while, I don't cut out first, because sometimes when I first start drawing it, it's a little bit off center, so I have to extend it past the margin, so that gives me room to play with. But also I lost my train of thought. Oh, it allows me to color all the way to the edge of the drawing, so that when I do, when it is finished and I give it to the clients, they don't have this tiny almost halo or border around the edges where it didn't quite go. Even though these drawings are get framed later on and everything, I still know it's there. I feel like I didn't quite do my job if it's not just so. And really I didn't. So that's why I do it. And then after I get all the color in, which is clearly going to be, it'll take a little time, hang on a second. That's the tail. Okay. Then before I blend it, I go back through and see maybe what colors, I make sure the colors are right. Then I'll blend it, and then sometimes you lose some of the shading and highlights when the piece is blended. So at that point I would go back through and add those things. And then either blend them in or just leave them, because at that point the pencils get very slick. So as long as it doesn't look like a bunch of lines, you know, like this kind of streaky, then it's okay. See how small that pen's gotten? I'm gonna have to turn that into a piece of jewelry pretty soon. Probably earrings. A couple pairs of earrings I've made with my Incy used up colored pencils. I figure as long as I can keep sharpening them, I will keep using them. Mainly because they're over $2 per pencil. So, and I think that's something people don't always understand when they are, you know, when they ask an artist for a price on something and the artist tells them. It's part of what we charge is because of the supplies. And sometimes depending on, you know, your market, or that's probably not the right word, but I don't really want to say level because that's not fair, but we'll say like the point of your career that you're in when you're anyway, a lot of times when you're starting out, it's like you don't even get to include your rate per hour, so you're just trying to, you know, make some sort of profit. But if people were really to look at how much you were getting paid per hour on that, you weren't even making minimum wage. So at the very least, you want to, you know, we just try to get the money back for supplies. And that's what's funny too, is I think when people say, oh, I could do that cheaper myself. Okay. go get the supplies and let me then come back to me. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're buying artwork. You know, the cost of supplies are often more than you think they would be. But yeah. I've done quite a few portraits for the lady who's commissioned me for this one. She's always awesome. So I really appreciate her. And I think I've mentioned before in other pieces, because it seems like I worked on a commissioned portrait in an older video. Colors for, or maybe it wasn't that video, maybe it was another one. Well, anyway, when you're doing flesh tones, it's not going to be just one color. You know, you're going to have all kinds of things you might not expect. You know, of course, you'll have, like, depending on the person's skin tone, you'll have like a light peach and a cream, like this one, or, you know, other things like that. But then in the same thing, you may have some blues or even a slightest bit of green, like a light green, some purple, and it all blends together to make a more realistic tone. So you can't just haul off and, you know, do something like that. Just, you know, even someone with paler toned skin, they're gonna have tans and some reds and you know, dark browns and light browns and stuff in there too. So you really have to look and draw what you see, not just, you know, some generic, what you assume, you know, generic assumption of, you know, just on the surface without really looking. Otherwise your work will suffer. When I took figure painting, he would have us do a, oh, what is it called? I think it's grisaille. I might have that wrong, and if I do, that's embarrassing. But it would be like a gray undertone painting, or sometimes a red, I believe red oxide. Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I took that class. Underpainting. And then from there you would build up on, and this was in oils, so everything took longer to dry and could be blended for longer. You would go on with the other colors that you would see, like some of them were bright crimson, even some, you know, and then, like I said, some greens and blues, and then build up from there, and you'd end up with this beautiful skin tone. But at first it was like a bizarre, what am I doing kind of thing. I just put, you can't really see because you just see my knuckles, but I put the pencils that I've already used. I try to keep track of them. So one, I can, if I need to go back and touch up a spot, I can find it easier. But also, so I kind of like, no, you use that one. What else are you, what other color do you need that you're getting confused with that one, kind of thing. This one is ginger root, and it's a really neat color, and it's one that if you're doing portraits with colored pencils you should have, because it's not a color you can really mix, and when you need it you'll know, and it's like, oh no, there's nothing else I can really mix to get that color. So, and there's my air conditioner. So if you're starting a collection, or you have a collection of colored pencils and you don't have ginger root yet, it's a good one to have on hand. I've gone through a ton of them. I always try to keep a few spares, but I get that one confused when I just mentioned, you know, sometimes keeping track of colors in case you're confusing it with another one. This one is light beige, and I tend to, sometimes I mix them up even when I'm looking at them. I don't think you can really, from as far back as the camera is, see right now the difference, but I promise you there is one. I do have an extender thingy, that I could put these in, but they're actually too small for that to make any difference. They kind of still fall out. So, and I'm used to working with them this small anyway, so it's just a habit. Just pick it up and use it till I can't anymore. It's actually part of why I don't polish my nails, because I use my pencils till they're so small, and also because I have a habit of doing this. I've gotten better. I usually have a brush that I do, but every once in a while I'll do that. And I've lost quite a few drawings in my time. Ooh, you hear that thunder? I've lost quite a few drawings in my time to nail polish. It's going great, and then you do this, and it's like, oh, no! Suddenly there's bright orange or red lines that you cannot get rid of on your paper. So, let's see. This is another one I like, this pencil. It's called Nectar. It's a really good one to have in your collection for portraits. And again, based on, and as I was saying about you know, paying attention to all the colors in someone's flesh, even if you have someone with a darker skin tone, you'll still have colors like this in there. You just have to look instead of just giving them a flat, you know, couple shades of brown and going, oh, okay, it's done. No, there are more in there. You just have to look. And then when you blend it, you say, oh, okay, it looks so nice. Yes, yes, it does. Another thing you may or may not be wondering about. I don't use an electric pencil sharpener on my colored pencils because they would go way too fast. I just use one of these, one like this. This is a really good pencil sharpener, by the way. Can't really see who it's by, can you? Can we? No. Anyway, it's from Germany. Never been, but that's where it was manufactured. And I use the larger side. I just find it eats up less of my pencil, so it lasts a little bit longer. Because you don't want to waste them. Every once in a while you get a pencil and it seems like it's softer lead than usual. And it's like, it keeps breaking when you're trying to sharpen it. Oh, those always upset me. It's like, what am I doing? I'm wasting it. And every once in a while I consider picking up the broken pencil tips and trying to color with them. Like, I just can't make that work. Same thing with your shadows, you know, it's not going to be just a flat dark color. If you really look at the shadows, you'll see different colors like this mixed in there. So you want to make sure that, again, like I keep saying, just really pay attention to it. And depending on the colors nearby, their flesh tones, they're going to pick up. They're going to pick up on the, he has his little hand tucked in there. They'll pick up things that are nearby, you know, different colors that are nearby. So just something to keep in mind. That wasn't quite right. But be careful with colors like this. It's a blush pink, and oh, I can't find it. Anyway, because they'll be in there, but you don't want to overdo them. It's usually better, in my experience, not to make big blocks of color like that. You're just enough that's required, or it can turn out looking a little odd. What's this one? This one I have sharpened the name right off of it. Did I have it? Is this the same one? This is the same one. So it is yellow ochre. I wasn't sure if it was yellow ochre or sand. This is sand. And it's, how about I actually show it to you? So, they're little, this one's darker, but anyway. And you can see, right now with these colors, it looks a little odd. You know, the skin tone looks a little harsh. Ooh. But, as it builds up, let me see. I'm not gonna finish this on camera today, but I'll share it with you all once it's completed, so you can see how it turns out. Also, another thing, when you're using colored pencils, because they can be waxy, might be the thing. Be careful about how hard you press with them. You don't want it to look really smooth before you get everything blended, because there is a point that you'll reach where it's too slick to blend it, and you get to where if you try to blend it at that point, it just starts scraping the color off. So don't get it too smooth while you're still adding colors. That's another thing to keep in mind when working with color pencils. And it's not because anything's wrong with the color pencils, they're doing their job. It's, yeah, you just have to keep that in mind. Trying to figure out. I'll add a little bit of this before I get into the other colors. There's a lot of yellow in his skin. Not in a bad way, but part of that also, I think, is the light that was on in the room. And the couch behind him is kind of a golden tan sort of color. So, like I was saying a few minutes ago, the flesh tone will pick up the colors around it. But all this yellow and peach needs to be toned down some too, and it will be. Especially white fur picks up. This is Faber-Castell just numbers theirs. So 107 for yellow. I'm not gonna put it on the little boy's skin, but I will on the cat's fur, tiger's fur there. Oh, this is my favorite, one of my favorite colors by Prismacolor. I don't know if you can really see it. Maybe. The screen's kind of small for me to tell, but it's pumpkin orange. And when I came across it in the store. It's like, I've got to have that color. Such a nice one. And it's another one that you can't quite mix. I mean, you can come close, but it's easier if you just have that color. And I actually use it a lot. So it's one that I try to keep a few of. And it looks like this is my spare, so I need to get myself back to Hobby Lobby and pick up a couple more. Not really worrying so much about the time on this video this time. I could have said that better. But whatever. I'm just hanging out. Letting y'all see what goes into one of these portraits, so a little bit longer than usual, and that's okay. His eyebrows are hopefully obviously, not going to stay that orange. But they're, you know, there's some shadow in there that picks that color up. And the flesh underneath the hair. I like working on these because I just kind of zone out, you know? And it's just me and the drawing, usually. I don't usually record this. Because all the details you have to pay attention to. A lot of the illustrations that I do, while I do like to include a lot of details, they're just a different style than my portraits. So yeah. And sometimes you might notice the same color but much lighter, so of course you don't want to press too hard, because even though you're going to blend the colors, you know, if you make them too dark to start with, they're not going to blend to the subtlety that you might have liked them to appear. That was probably a mess of a sentence, but like I said, there are purples and flesh tones, and you want to be careful, because otherwise it can look a little funny if you don't do it right and or you don't get the right purple. This is a lavender, and the shadow above his lip right there has a little bit of purple in it. So I'm gonna make sure. And lavender is another good one to have by Prismacolor if you're doing portraits. You'll find that when you start looking at them, it's a color you'll probably use fairly often for portraits. Actually, where's my white pencil? There it is. His eyelids lighter than that. I noticed something. In Tiger's stripes, he has a little bit more gold right there. Might have a little bit more Imperial Violet. Again, you have to be really careful with purple, because if you get too crazy with it, the person can come out looking bruised after it's blended, and then you're gonna have to do the whole thing over again. So I try to steer clear of using that too much. Just little bits here and there. Clearly more work to do on Tiger. He's a gray tiger cat, so there'll be more for me to do on his fur. But I think I'd like to work on that when I'm